Great. I am so excited to be joining you all today with mindset and confidence coach Robin Sachs. We are purposefully showing up today for this community to to start your New Year's off. That's January 1. Holy cow, January 1, 2025. That you don't feel lost, that you don't feel like, what's the plan? We're here today in some ways that might actually surprise you. And I'm going to throw the microphone over to Robin to kick us off. But again, just so excited to have you all with us today. And we're going to give you some really tangible takeaways to make sure that you get off this call or off this podcast in a way that you can go take some action. So, hi, Robin. Happy New Year's.
Hey, happy healthy new year to you. Very cool.
Yay. Oh, that's crazy to say that right now. Happy New
Ooh,
Year.
happy 2025. Woo.
Yes. So, can you help us if you had one thing that you're like, I hope everybody hears this today? What do you hope the listener is taking away?
If I had one thing, I would say please ditch this idea of resolutions and just start thinking of process and routines. And you don't have to wait till January 1st every year to do that, which we often do, right? We look at the calendars and we let the calendar say, well, this is a special day. Let's do it here. That's not at all. You can do these things anytime, but we're all in that mindset right now of this is going to happen this time, even though we've said it 14 other times that it's never happened. It's not because of you. And so this is something I think that's important to understand. You know, we could walk through and fill in the blank, right? But instead of saying, I have never been able to do it, I always fail, I don't even make it to February 1st, I can't do this, I'm done with it. I'm going to invite you to take the word I out of everything. Just stop blaming yourself for everything. You can look at, and again, fill in the blank. You can say, I have failed on every diet I've been on if you're on a weight loss journey. You could also say, diets have failed me because I've not found the way that I need to walk through a weight loss process, right? And you can fill in the blanks with any of this stuff. So, one, I want to encourage you strongly. I don't even want to encourage you. I want to tell you just don't question it. Take I out of everything. Stop blaming yourself because nothing good comes of that. And more often than not, that's not really the case. So let's get out of that mentality and go, what do I need to do? This is the only time you're allowed to use I to make this work for me. And in order to do that, you have to get big picture with a couple of things. One, if you've said you wanted to do something several times and, for example, made it a resolution, and by February 1st it was gone, the first question is, why do you say you want that? Is that actually something you want, or do you just like the idea of it? And this is a big, big deal. And you've got to be honest with yourself. Be completely honest with yourself. Do not judge, no judgment, just awareness. If you're honest with yourself, you can say, I've said I'm going to lose 30 pounds for the last 7 years on January 1st. I'm going to do it this time. And I've even said I'll do it this time and it's going to be different. I'm really going to do it this time. And you've said that 6 out of the 7 times, right? Stop for a moment. What is the big deal about that 30 pounds? Because obviously that approach is not motivating you to do what you need to do. So let's stop the approach. Don't blame yourself. That approach is not a good approach for you. So if we start asking why, we can think of things like, I want to be able to run around in the backyard a lot easier without getting winded with my grandchildren. That's a totally different motivator. That's something we can get excited about. Losing 30 pounds by not eating anything, which is how we think about it, that's a horrible way to think about that, right? And will never motivate you to take action and stick with it. So, maybe I just went on to some medication a couple of years ago. I realized if I drop about 30 pounds, I can actually get off of that medication and not worry about side effects over the years that could come with that. That's something that makes us go, yeah, that's something that's a big deal to me. That's important. Losing 30 pounds and not eating anything, which is what we tell ourselves, is not going to give you the same effect. So we're taking I out of the mix. We're being honest with ourselves and saying, is this something I even want? Or am I just saying it because I either feel I should, everyone else is doing it, right? I don't care what anyone else is doing. Most people are doing stuff that has nothing to do with success. So stop following people. Just stop. They don't know what they're doing. Stop and figure out what works for you. That is how to get what you want. But you've got to understand why I want it, if I actually want it, and what is the thing that's going to make me go, yes, every time I go, I don't really want to do that. Yes, I'm doing this because if I do this, I will get that. And I really want that. Right. So shifting of mindset a little bit. The other thing is, just coming out of the holidays, which for a lot of people can be a stressful time, whether that's family time, whether that's financial time, whether that's a time of loss, right? For a lot of reasons, coming out of the holidays can be very taxing for some people. Not uncommon. What I want you to prioritize, even if it's not a specific thing, I want you to prioritize your self care and the ability to recharge that. And what I mean by that is it doesn't have to be a specific thing. I want to do X by this date, whatever that is. Again, fill in the blank for you. Goals don't make things happen. I hate to say that. They don't. Goals are things way out there that are far from where we are now. And if we don't have a reason to be excited or interested or engaged from getting from here to here, we're going to stop here every time. Goals just look out there and we go, oh, there's still such a long way to go. And that's demotivating. What motivates us and recharges us and keeps us in a place of self-care and control is I can identify a goal out there, and then I want that goal to just, I'm not going to think about it anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is say, what are the things that I can do on a daily, consistent basis that will automatically get me to that goal? Looking at your goal, I love when people are like, eye on the prize, keep your eye on the prize. Psychologically, that's not the best advice because that keeps telling you how far you are from where you want to go. And I've used this analogy possibly before with us at some point over the last couple of years on a call. If I'm a football team and I'm on my own goal line and I have to go to your goal line, it's 100 yards away to score. If I look out there and go, we have 100 yards to go, that is going to potentially be impossible, right? That's why you don't have plays that are 70, 80, 90 yards. Those aren't normal things. Occasionally, something amazing happens. That's not how you play games. That's not how you score points. That's not how you win games, ever. The way in football you win games and score points is I simply have to go the next 10 yards. And I have 4 tries, technically, to get those 10 yards. So if I win 25% of the time, which, by the way, means I'm not winning 75% of the time. Please understand this perspective. If I win 25% of the time, I've gone 10 yards. All I have to do is repeat that and continue a 25% success rate. I will score a touchdown every time I have the ball if I simply do that. Please start looking at everything as I need to go the next 10 yards. What are those 10 yards? If you look and say I have to go 100, you will never get past 20 or 30 yards ever. You'll stop. And Lindsay, I'd love to stop there for just a second and get your take on some of this stuff. What are your thoughts on
Oh,
these
it's
things?
so good. And you know what, Robin? That's funny that you're like, I'm sure I've used this a bunch. I've never heard you talk the football analogy
All
here.
right, well, there we
And
go.
yes, and it makes so much sense and it piggybacks really well into just this firm belief. And I feel like I've really started having this conversation almost weekly with clients of the show up factor. The changes in the show up. I one time had a podcast guest say, and I believe that so strongly because to your point, when you do that 25%, you're not gonna see success right away because you're just showing up to some small changes, right? But if you keep showing up to it, then the success factor comes. And so the real challenge is how do we get individuals to stay so focused on the show up factor and put that goal off to the side, minimize the scale results, whatnot, so that it's just about my promise to myself as I'm showing up to, I've started putting them on sticky notes with my clients. What is your show up factor? Well, my show up factor is if I show up to my water, if I show up to eating my fruits and vegetables in the day, if I show up to my bedtime, if I show up to putting my phone away for 2 hours of the day, those are tangible, right? We can show up to these actionable steps, but forgetting that we need this promise of a number needing to come with it. Where, like you and I, as coaches, we can provide that promise to our clients. Like, I promise if you do this, you are going to see results. And believe, and we'll be your belief system until you can believe it on your own. But that's kind of where I would want to go with that is just like really reiterating this show up factor and small changes equal the big success. But I will tell you, and I've said this on my last couple of podcasts, is that I feel like when you watch that play out in real life, for some of my clients, that takes 3 to 6 months to start to see what they're going to call results. They've been getting results all along, whether it's better sleep, better energy, lab results looking a little bit better. But as far as the scale results, if I'm saying 6 months, like for some people, they're like, oh my gosh, that would be, we're already into June. And I told you I might fall off by February. That's a problem. We're never going to get to see what our efforts have done, right?
Right. And to that, and I love the trust us until you can trust you, because we know that that's how it works. And it ties into with what you just said, Lindsay. How do I want to say this?
Yeah.
It is the only way to get success. There is no shortcut. There is no hack. It's so easy, and it's human nature. It's human behavior to want to get there faster. And what amazes me is people will take 3 years to try all the hacks and still not get where they want to be, because that's not how it works. They could have taken 6 months and gotten their results. And that's the perspective, is stop and look back. If I say to someone, give me 3 to 6 months and you will be in the place you want to be, so you can jump off and maintain that, or you can be well on your way, right? If you want to lose 100 pounds, we'll have 20 down, and you know exactly what to do to get the next 20 and the next 20 and the next, and now you're at 100. There you go, right? The thing with that is there is only one way to do it. And if you say to me, wait, this could take 6 months, I'm going to say two things to you. One, I'm going to remind you the time is going to pass anyway. In 6 months, do you want to be, for example, overweight you or 20 pounds down you? Tell me which one you want, because the time is going to pass anyway. It's going to be June 7th, regardless of what you have done or not done. So time is a horrible way to think. I don't want to do it, or I want to do it, right? We want it quicker. Stop with the calendar. The idea is if I start now, I will be exactly where I want to be at some time in the future. That future time is going to be there whether you like it or not, or whether you did anything or not. Which version of you do you want to see June 7th? That's what you need to decide. That's number one, right? Number two is I love stepping back and kind of reminding them, okay, let's put this in perspective. Okay. You say you want to do X, and I say, hey, give us about 6 months and we can make that happen, or we could get you well on your way to making that happen, right? And you go, oh no, 6 months. I say, okay, how long have you been the you're trying to change now? And they'll be like 10 years. Like, okay, put this in perspective. Think about that. Nobody is ever going to answer that and say 6 months. Nobody. And if they are, I'm going to say, wow, you see how quickly 6 months had you go from here to here? We just need 6 months to get you from here back to there. That's it. It makes perfect sense, right? The calendar I'm a big fan of throwing the calendar out for trying to figure things out. And sometimes it's counterintuitive to what people think because it's, well, no, I need to track. I need to know where my progress is. I need to put things down. For example, I need to weigh myself, or I need to lift this weight, or I need to see change in the numbers. And you're absolutely right. That can help motivate. The challenge is we tend to try and move through that too quickly, right? So if I go into the gym and I lift 100 pounds, right? I don't go into the gym tomorrow and lift 110 and then the next day 120. That's never going to get you where you're going. It's probably going to get you injured. You're never going to get stronger because you're not giving your body and muscles time to rest. So you've got to stop and incrementally go. So if I'm looking at it from day to day, I'm not going to see a lot of difference. If I weigh myself every day, I'm going to not see a ton of movement. And there are going to be days where I'm up a little and down a little. That's demotivating. Those are two examples. However, if I say I'm going to do the things I do daily and I'm going to step on a scale once a week, or I'm only going to log in my book where I am with my strength training once a week or once every other week, that is when you start to see differences because day to day, you're going to see this and it's going to demotivate you before you get to see this, right? With weights or this with weight, right? You can't see things here. You have to see things here. This is motivating. This is demotivating. And so we want change now. And sometimes the challenge, I think, with things like New Year's resolutions is one, we just say something, but we don't actually put a plan or process together to do that. So you're never going to get something just by saying it. You don't have a magic wand and say, I'm going to do this now. Bing. Not how it works. The question is, so how do you plan to do that? And the way to plan to do that is, again, the only way you can find success with anything. What am I going to do day to day that if I do that consistently, I will automatically arrive at my goal? The focus isn't the goal. The focus is the things that get me to it. And those are those little things done consistently get you, like you said, all of your results. There is no other way to do it. Hacks waste your time trying to. Here's another analogy. I might have shared this before. It's one I use frequently. If you're driving down the street and you're not in any rush and you're just taking your time and you're going pretty much the speed limit and you're just going, and there's another car that keeps speeding up and zipping in between traffic and in and out and stuff, you end up at the red light next to them every single time. This person is convinced I can get there quicker. This person is just slow and steady, just going. They both arrive at the destination literally at the same time. There isn't a faster way. So ask yourself, am I being this car? Because if so, you're wasting time, you're wasting energy, you might be wasting money if you keep trying things over and over and over, trying to pay people to hack. That's not how it works. This person will get there every single time. This person, when they arrive, they're going to be anxious and nervous and stressed because they were doing it that way. This person will arrive at the same place. And guess what? They're going to feel pretty darn good. That's how we work as humans. Human behavior 101. Don't question it. Don't second guess it. Don't doubt it. Just do it.
Right. Right. And, I wrote this down and circled it, but I think what has to come along with everything you're saying is the whole idea of ditching diet mentality and diet
Mhm.
behaviors. And an interesting thing that comes up in coaching conversations is like, I can be working with a client who I've been working with for a while, and they can be pretty far along and like in a really good brain space. And then it inevitably happens that like maybe they've stalled or they're frustrated or they do have something exciting coming up and they're like, Lindsay, do you think like what if we kind of set this goal of 10 pounds by, like it feels innocent coming out of their mouth, but the
Sure.
reality is that something triggered them to like go back to that diet mentality of I need to set a goal number. Should I start weighing in every day just to check it, or should I? And it's like, I totally get why this happens.
Huh.
But that is, we've been trained up in this diet mentality. And then we have to like go through the conversation of, do you think that that will be actually beneficial to you if you don't hit that number when that day comes? And do you think you ultimately could still be equally excited because you're that much more muscular, or the dress fits amazing, but the number's not met? Because that's confusing, right? Like, we can actually already be happy and be super proud of ourselves, and the number might not look like what we thought it was going to look like. So I feel like one of my constants with my clients is, can we just see? Can we see what that number is going to look like? And with the promise of, I promise we're still fighting for your weight loss. I promise we're still fighting for your ultimate health, but we're just doing it differently. We're just going about it differently. So that goes
Yeah.
back to more of that big picture. And I feel like, again, as coaches, we got to like kind of rein people back in for a second. New Year's is happening. It's New Year's Day. I'm so excited to set this big goal. And Robin and I are going, hang on. Have you just penned to paper what you want to see happen and unfold for you over the next, let's even just call it 5 days, right? And then we can start to talk about 10 days, and then we can talk about a month, and we can talk about 6 months. So I was loving the big picture piece of this, that if somebody's jumping on, it's New Year's, my woohoo button is pushed, we're gonna run with that. But we're gonna do it in a way that you can keep showing up to it without a bigger chance of failure. And maybe that's how we end this today. Like, can you go into, how do you protect people from that fear of failure, or the chance that they're going to feel failure, to make sure that the progress keeps happening?
Definitely. I would say two things. One, failure is about learning. So the perspective we have on, I did something and it didn't work, all that means is maybe I try that again, but I certainly don't need to try it 3 or 4 times. If that didn't work for me, there are other things I can be doing that can help work. And maybe that failure, again, because we often say, I failed, I'm not doing it right, get I out of all of that. Maybe that just means, hey, there are 5 things you can try. All of these things can work, but not all of them work for everybody. So try this. Okay, give this a little time, see if it works. If it doesn't, be willing to go, that's maybe not my answer. Let me go try this for a couple of weeks. Maybe I try this. But what people do is, again, human behavior, we it gets personal because we blame ourselves. I need to make this work. And we never get to the places that could take us forward, sometimes very quickly and easily. So don't get stuck. Taking pen to paper, like you said, is all about, what could this look like? What are some ways to get me there? Because there's never one way to get somewhere. We can look at the big picture of, yes, you might need to shift how you're eating. Yes, you might need to shift how you're moving. Yes, you might have to shift how you're thinking. But we can take those things small and in small doses and create a little routine, right? A perfect example is, the thing you're trying to do is sometimes you're doing things that are not allowing that to happen, which you then view as failure. I'll give you a perfect example. And we'll stay with something like weight loss, right? If I am doing all of the right things, I'm moving, I'm eating well, but I am not controlling my stress, I hate to tell you, the eating and moving isn't ever going to get you where you want to go. Because at that point, you have a stress problem, not necessarily a weight problem. What that simply means is, if you're in fight or flight and stressed or anxious all day long for so many days, that cortisol rushing through your body is literally not helping you. It's not allowing you to burn anything, right? When we're in fight or flight, things like our digestion shut down. Everything shuts down and holds energy. And by the way, all energy is in your body are calories. So if I'm trying to do things to work my calories and balance them to get a result, but I have cortisol running through my body, I'm not burning many calories, even if I'm doing the quote unquote right things with other things. So part of the bigger picture is, don't get tunnel vision. Step back, and this goes back to that, how do I recharge and prioritize self-care? What are those silos look like? How am I going to move a little differently? How am I going to eat a little differently, or have a relationship with food that looks a little different? And how am I going to mentally learn to get those stress levels down, kind of keep cortisol, keep adrenaline, keep all that stuff at bay? That's why we call it stress management, not stress elimination, right? You don't have to get rid of the stress. You're not going to. But when your levels are up here, that's impacting things you may not even realize it's impacting. And you're trying so hard. I keep using air quotes today, but these are the things we say. But I'm trying so hard. Okay, you're trying hard with these things, and you could try as hard as is humanly possible. If you're missing this thing, these things will never work, whether you're trying a little or a lot. Step back. What else needs to be something that you practice? As soon as you start, for example, doing a 5-minute meditation every day, guess what? You might realize you drop a couple of pounds because you have times in your day where now your body is allowed to do what it needs to do. And if you're eating fairly well, if you're moving a bit, guess what? If you get this piece in line, that stuff can happen a bit easier. So be careful of tunnel vision, right?
Mhm.
Really step back and go, if I was looking at me physically, mentally, and emotionally, and take a pen and piece of paper and write columns down. Physically, what are the things I'm doing for me? I'm going to take a 10-minute walk every day. I'm going to take a 20-minute walk, right? I'm going to, you don't even have to go to the gym unless that's your thing. You don't have to take an hour cardio class unless that's your thing. You can get onto YouTube and find any type of exercise from 2 minutes to 2 hours. You can watch retreats of people, of famous people that you might enjoy. You could watch somebody from down the street who's doing stuff in their living room and they're showing people how to do. Go find what resonates with you and just say this is doing something, and doing something is the key. What am I going to do physically? What am I going to do mentally? Do something. Go talk to a friend, watch a movie that makes you laugh, right? Or a TV show. Go on and watch silly, dad jokes on TikTok. I don't care what you do. What are the things that energize you, that bring you some fun, some joy? Find some of those moments, even if they're moments in your day. So, what am I going to do mentally? And then, what am I going to do emotionally? Right? We know where we get our stress, we know where we get our energy. If you are siding with things that bring you stress more, I'm going to encourage you to go, I am no longer going to do this. I'm going to step over here and I'm going to replace it with this every once in a while. Don't always just go to your stress. What brings you energy? That is emotionally how you start to shift perspective and remind yourself you are in control. And that's how you build some healthy habits. But it's got to be stuff that's fun for you, that you enjoy. And
Mhm.
somebody's enjoyment and fun of something might look different than yours. That does not mean any of it is right or wrong or good or bad. Find what brings you joy in those 3 columns, and you will more likely do them, and you will start to see results faster usually than you could even imagine.
Thank you. That is so well stated and said, and I'm going to summarize for us. And before I do that, I just want to go back to this like find where it might be you type of
Yeah.
thinking. For any listener who is going, I don't know. I don't know what my next. I'm like, Robin and I would both tell you, you do. There is some little voice whispering and going, but you haven't addressed your boundaries, but you haven't addressed that maybe you had some trauma in childhood, but you haven't addressed that you do know you might not want to face it and it might feel overwhelming to face it, but the fact of the matter is like there's some inkling happening for you where you're going. It's probably I probably need to do like a deep dive in this area or just at least dip a toe in the water and start to see what your resources are. So again, just to kind of summarize with this, but I love how Robin said taking the word I out of everything, stop blaming yourself first and foremost. Two, why do oh, say what you want, figure out your whys. Like really dig Ask why till you cry. Make sure that that's very, very set in your brain. You understand exactly what you're fighting for. Number
Don't
three,
just do something to do it. That is a waste of time and energy. Never
waste of
just do
time.
it to do it.
Yes. Such a, yes, eyes on your own paper, people. Yes. Number three, coming out of the holidays. And this is one of the first things that Robin was talking to me about before we hit the record button. And I was like, we could just drop the mic after stating this. Just the whole, like, maybe the only thing you need to focus on out of the holidays is recharging in your self-care. And it might ripple into every other thing that you actually want to happen. So I love that. Thank you, Robin. Number four, find where the cause and the solution might be you. Okay. We cannot ignore and just do just fitness, just nutrition. There might be so many other things we need to address. And number five, what brings you energy? And I have a client who always says, just show up to the feel goods, show up to the feel goods. Because if I keep showing up to things that bring me energy, bring me, my knee feels better when I sit on the spinning mic. Like, of course, we're going to keep showing up to it if it feels good and it brings us energy. And of course, we're not going to show up to it if it drains us and we walk away feeling unmotivated. So, those are your quick takeaways. Robin, if people are loving your message and need more of you in their ear as they walk through this January season, where can they find you?
LinkedIn is always a great place. I share regularly tips, tools, just little bite-sized things that allow you to continue to build this toolbox and step into the world, just showing up and finding what works for you, which is kind of cool. Little reminders we all need.
Mhm.
You can also go to my website, robinjsachs.com, or just Google Robin Sachs. It'll come up, and a lot of little free videos, a lot of free articles, things like that, that just really talk about how to be less stressed, how to be more confident, and how to give yourself permission to walk into the world and be you. And how amazing how things change when you just give yourself permission to do that.
Amen, sister. So good. So good. Yes. Thank you for joining me today. I feel like I missed my opportunity where we both could like have our little our New Year's hats and our
That's true.
yeah, celebratory confetti needs to fall right now. But
Right? Right?
yes. Oh,
Maybe in post-production.
yeah, there we go. Hey team. Um, yes, but
Right, right.
happy New Year to everybody listening today. My last and final encouragement is plug Robin into your ears, plug myself into your ears. Come follow Direction Not Perfection podcast. We're gonna have a lot of amazing guests continue to come on, and Robin joins me often, and I'm so appreciative for you. So
I
do
appreciate
that.
it.
If you do nothing else, plug us in your ears so that you can have some really good eyes on your own paper type of talk, horse blinder type of talk as you work your way through 2025. So hugs, Robin. Thank you. Happy New Year, buddy. And thank you for
Thank you.
joining me.
Happy New Year. I appreciate you.
Mm.